D with you once again. Happy Friday, everyone. And we are really making some great progress in our series. We are now on day 7 of our June monitoring jumpstart, and we are talking all about thinking beyond the selfie and what's working now on Instagram. I would say this is probably one of the hottest topics I run into, and something that inevitably comes across and is a question that I get asked about every time I give a speaking engagement, large or small. We all want to talk about Instagram, right? It is one of, bar none, the hottest marketing platforms for aesthetic practices for a good reason. And so, what I want to do today, rather than getting into the nitty gritty of, here is how you do A, here is how you do B, because first of all, I don't know if you're doing that personally, if you have an agency or a social media assistant, or if someone on your practice team is doing that. And I'm not sure, how well informed of social media you all are, whether you're a beginner or perhaps more advanced. So what I really wanted to cover today was really some best practices that you can leverage to really make the most of your Instagram marketing efforts, whether you are more novice in your Instagram efforts or whether you are much more advanced. So really looking forward to diving right in. Like I say, it is certainly a hot topic and one that I get asked about without fail every time we do an event. So really want to get started here. And what I really want to begin with today is what I call my personal pet peeve. And that is that your social media is not an order form or sales catalog. I think that despite the best of intentions, a lot of practices tend to get so caught up in practicing before and afters and, sharing, all their services on offer and really just the commercial side of it, that they forget that social media is supposed to be social, right? And yes, there is absolutely a place in moderation, of course, to talk about your services, to offer your promotions to your audience, to really educate them on all the procedures that are available in your practice and showcase the amazing results and before and afters you're getting, of course, provided you're allowed to do that in your regional market, right? I know some regions such as Canada that isn't actually allowed, but right, regardless of that, we want to, again, really make sure that we're keeping it social, we're keeping it authentic, and that really your social media becomes a place to build relationships and engage your audience in a very compelling way so that they, again, become interested in what you have to offer, right? So there's a very special way to do that, and there really is a very fine balance between promotional type content and more kind of educational, engaging type content. We're going to talk about all of that today. Whoop, got one slide ahead of myself, but let me just go up here. Perfect. So, what I want to also let you in on are some of the biggest trends that we are seeing in 2019 as it pertains to Instagram, right? And the first trend you need to be cognizant of is that when we look at engagement, and by the way, for those of you who are not as, well versed in this, engagement refers to people interacting with your content, right? People liking it, people actually watching it, people sharing it, on Facebook, if that's what you're doing Facebook marketing for. Really, people, on Instagram either liking, commenting, reposting, really kind of getting interactive with your content, right? That's what we define engagement as. And we see that it's moving towards your Instagram stories, right? So depending what statistic you reference, Instagram stories are outpacing your typical Instagram feed where you post your photos. The engagement on stories is outpacing that by about 15 to 17 times, depending which study you reference. And again, this is as of right now, June 2019. So keeping that in mind, if you are only posting to your photo feed, right, but you're not doing any story content, you're losing out on a lot of potential engagement, right? And by the way, for those of you who don't know, stories are what you're going to see at the top of your Instagram profile, where people are posting little tidbits of content each day. That is your Instagram story, right? So those circles you see at the top of your Instagram feed, that's your story. So the biggest trend we want to keep in mind is that's where engagement is really headed. It's moving toward stories. So the other thing we want to keep in mind is that influencers and the landscape of influencers is evolving. Again, for those of you who aren't too up to speed on the terminology yet, influencers are, again, kind of these social media celebrities. People like Kylie Jenner, right? That is your example of, what we call a macro influencer, right? Someone with a huge follower base where, they pretty much lift a finger and the world watches, right? That is what we were defined as an influencer. But what we're actually seeing is we're not seeing as much really traction for our clients with big influencers, right? The Kylie Jenners of the world being the biggest example of that, right? A quintessential example, if you will. But we're really seeing a lot of traction with what we call micro and nano influencers. These are people with between 5 and 20,000 followers who really still have clout and are really kind of tastemakers of a sort with their audience, right? Because these people generally are seen as much more authentic than these huge influencers who now every post they put out is pretty much perceived as a commercial, right? So what we're seeing is when we vet influencers, when we look for people to work with for our clients, we're really seeing the most traction with micro and nano influencers, right? And anytime you work with an influencer, we really do want to make sure that they are a fit for your brand, right? And we also want to make sure we look at their analytics to make sure that they haven't just got a bunch of fake followers, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But we really want to make sure they are really having an engaged and legitimate audience, right? So that we actually get the return on our investment with influencers that we're looking for. Now, another trend to be aware of is Instagram is actually starting to look a lot more like Facebook, right? In terms of features, functionalities, and that's a trend that's probably going to continue because not only does Facebook own Instagram, but you may realize that a number of the Instagram original founders have actually departed the company. And Adam Mosseri, who was a former executive at Facebook, he has now stepped into that executive role at Instagram. So that's why you see a lot of these, kind of functionalities and best practices and things that were once really relevant to Facebook now finding their way over to Instagram as well. And finally, personalized content is the new viral, right? And this is especially true for those practices that have multiple locations or do business in multiple markets, right? People want to see local, relevant, personalized content. So in some cases, you see big brands now even having multiple profiles. But we want to remember that the more we can make content personal and local for people, the more they're going to engage with it, right? No one really wants to engage with cookie cutter content like they do content that's really customized. So these are just some trends that are really taking shape in 2019 that we should be cognizant of and really keep an eye on as we head into the future. So that's just a little summary of what to be on the lookout for. Now, the first area I see a lot of practices can possibly optimize their Instagram profile is really with their bio, right? Right? A lot of practices aren't necessarily optimizing their bio, and it's kind of hard to read. It doesn't necessarily convey key information as efficiently as it could. And so again, it's just not an opportunity to really, captivate clients from the get-go, right? In that split second, we have their attention. So your bio is really a great place to start doing that. So on the left, we have an example where you'll see everything is very clearly outlined, right? Cosmetic doctor, 4,000 procedures yearly. He's an Allergan diamond provider. He doesn't do surgery, only injections. He's in Miami and New York, and there's his contact info. Again, by the way, these are not our clients. I just picked random industry examples at large just to showcase this for you. Another thing this gentleman is doing correctly, Dr. Blinsky here, is that he is wearing a white coat in his image. So Real Self actually did a survey, and 70% of patients they surveyed actually prefer to see an image of their provider or their medical director in a white coat on Instagram. Now, that's not saying you have to, by all means, use an image of yourself as the medical director or your medical director or physician in a white jacket. But again, customer preference is toward those kinds of images. I know some practices still prefer to use their logo, and that's okay. I just wanted to share that stat with you. Again, that 70% of people surveyed by Real Self actually prefer to see an image of their provider in a white coat. So that's one thing. Another thing we can do is really use, your link in the bio. There's a few different services that can do this. Linktree is one. LinkedIn.bio is another to point people to different places, right? So that allows, they click on your profile link and they can go one of 3 or 4 or 5 places, right? Maybe it's your website, maybe it's to a promotional offer you have, maybe it's to a place where they can leave reviews or read reviews. That's up to you. But we now have a way through these services where we can actually add more than one link to an Instagram profile. So it's a nice little workaround. And in a minute, I'm going to talk about leveraging your highlights area and why that's almost like a miniature website. So we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Another thing I want all of you to be cognizant of with your Instagram profiles is that there really is a fine line between personal and private, right? And here I have, again, 2 random examples, Dr. Mike on the left and Dr. Dave on the right, okay? Right? So Dr. Dave, he is doing probably not even with bad intentions, but he is doing what I call crossing that line between personal and private, right? Whereas Dr. Mike on the left, Dr. Mike here, it's all professional. Yes, he's, sharing and showcasing his personal life, but it's all done in a way that, really honors his credentials and still, puts him in the right spotlight. Dr. Dave, on the other hand, his profile kind of looks like something you'd see on a dating app, right? It doesn't necessarily look like the medical professional you would want to go see for your cosmetic procedures, right? So just keep in mind there's always a line between personal and private, right? And you don't want to cross that, right? So just keep that in mind whenever yourself or your team members are posting something on your Instagram. Try not to cross that line between personal and private, right? Again, we don't ever want to do anything that's going to trivialize your credentials. So really important to keep that in mind. So I mentioned a moment ago in our trends summary that stories are really driving engagement on Instagram right now. And I want to give you some tips for what you can put in your story, right? So the first thing I always advise is have a graphic designer really create some custom story templates for you, so that you're not just always relying on what Instagram uses, and you can keep everything nice and branded, right? Those of you who might remember from our session on branding will remember that one of the keys to success in branding is really being consistent and keeping things looking the same across as many platforms as possible. So story templates are really key for that. You can, again, always use your stories for posts, announcements, and news, right? And that's a really great place to showcase that kind of stuff that's more time sensitive and might not make as much sense in your photo feed. So that can work really well in your stories also. And another thing that we've seen work really well with our clients right now is weekly series and Q&A sessions, right? Right, live Q&A sessions are great, as are, recorded Q&A sessions where you are recording, the answer to different questions people send in little 30 to 60-second snippets, right? So for an example, we have a practice in Florida, and they do something called Better Skin Fridays. So their patients and their audience know all week they can send in their skincare questions through their Instagram stories, right? They post about it every day. And then on Friday, that story time is really devoted to answering those Better Skin Friday questions, right? So people every week come to expect it and look forward to it, right? I always say you want to think of your Instagram stories almost like your own little reality show, right? So people can tune in to see certain things every week, right? People like to see consistency in your posting cadence, right? So have fun with it and just, again, treat it like your own reality show where people can really get to know you, your team, and your procedures a lot better. You may be aware that you can also now syndicate your Instagram stories to Facebook. So it's really in your best interest to do that as well. And if you're going to be using GIFs in your stories, there is actually a way called Giphy, Giphy, to create your own custom GIFs, right? Whether that's of, your team member giving a thumbs up or your logo animated, whatever you want it to be, there's a way you can do custom GIFs. And if any of you want help doing that, feel free to send me an email. I'd be more than happy to share those instructions with you. So you can take a look at that as well. Awesome. The next thing I want to cover is you may see some celebrities with a blue check mark, right? These notable figures with a blue check mark, and wonder how you can get one for yourself. I wish I could tell you there was a very ABC formula to getting a blue check mark, but unfortunately there is not, right? But I can tell you that anyone can apply. You can apply every 30 days. Instagram's going to look for authenticity, uniqueness, a complete profile, and that you're someone notable. So having PR and media coverage can be in your benefit when trying to get a blue check mark, right? Again, it's about a lot more than your follower count. Yes, they may consider that, but don't think just because you have a lot of followers, you're automatically going to be considered and given a blue check mark, right? There are any number of things that Instagram considers, and these are just some things that can help along the way. Again, you can apply for one every 30 days, but there's no way to really, guarantee you're going to get one. So I wish I could tell you that there was, but unfortunately there is not. Now, another thing I want you all to be very careful about with your Instagram marketing is really this whole idea of buying likes and buying followers to grow your follower base really, really, really quickly, right? Generally, when you have someone advertising to grow your follower base fast, they are doing something like this, right? What you were looking at, and this is just so creepy, right? This is called a click farm, right? So when someone is going to get you a whole bunch of likes and followers very quickly, usually they are paying someone in a country with very low cost, unfair labor wages to quite literally sit here with a little whole panel of phones in front of them and click, 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 like. So not only is that fake behavior and that can get you shut down by Instagram, but the other challenge here is say, for example, this activity is happening on your behalf in the Philippines, right? Instagram's algorithm is going to realize, oh my goodness, right? A lot of people in the Philippines seem to love this medical spa. So let's not show the posts and this content to people in the United States or Canada, and let's show it to people in the Philippines, right? So it actually works against you and damages your opportunity for maximum visibility, right? That is the most number of people not only seeing your posts, but also engaging with them. So again, it's a really bad idea. I know it might seem tempting to purchase likes and followers, but please don't do it. It's not a good look. Um, and a question a lot of people also cover with me is hashtags, right? So again, you definitely want to be using hashtags. We know those posts with them get up to 70% more engagement, right? Don't feel like you should be using identical hashtags every time, right? You really want to make sure the hashtags you're using are relevant to the post and the content of that post. There are several research tools I'm going to share with you in a minute that you can find more competitive and less competitive hashtags, right? Generally, more competitive are seen as those with over 500,000 posts. Less competitive are those with less than 500 posts. I'm sorry, 500,000 posts. So use a combination of both. And in your stories, you can actually make your hashtags invisible by choosing a custom font color that matches your background or hiding it behind a GIF. So that's possible as well. You really want to use both. Now, how often should you post? On Facebook, we like our clients to post a bare minimum of 3 to 4 times a week with their best content. Depending on the stat you reference, you may want to post more than that. We really like fresh video content on Facebook as well. Instagram, we generally like 1 to 2 posts a day and 2 to 3 minutes of live content a day. Now, I know that might seem like a lot, but remember, that's only 4 to 6 30-second increments of content. So it could be, people introducing procedures of the day. It could be anything like that. So I know that seems like a daunting amount at first, but it's not that bad when you break it down into 30-second increments. As for Snapchat, we really like our clients to post 2 to 3 minutes a day of live content there as well. If you are using Real Self, and I know, or sites like it, and that can be a bit of a controversial platform. That's another debate for another day. 5 to 10 minutes of content a day, right, in terms of answering questions, engaging with people, that's a good place to start. And review sites, that's your Yelp, that's your Google, that is, your Facebook if you're getting reviews on there. That is really something you should do whenever reviews occur. And even if you get a bad review, you should definitely be sure to respond to it. If you have any questions on how to do that, feel free to send me an email, and I'd be happy to share some best practices with you. So just some things to be aware of that are taken into effect with the Instagram and Facebook algorithms, which determine how much visibility your posts get. They want to see how many people among your followers are engaging with your posts. They want to see how long people are actually spending on your posts, which, as crazy as it is, Instagram can actually track that now. Video posts are great for that because it takes a little more time to watch at least part of a video or the whole thing than just to scroll past a photo post, right? So that's really great as well. It also wants to see how quickly people engage with your content, right? Are they responding within seconds of your content going live, or does it take them like half an hour to respond to it, right? That's factored into your algorithm as well. And Instagram is also wondering, if you are a searched account or not, right? So are people looking for you, right, in the little search bar, or do they find you kind of haphazardly? That's just another factor that the algorithm takes into account. Nobody knows Instagram's algorithm. We have inklings based on trial and error what influence it. Instagram, to a certain extent, will also tell us this, but ultimately, no one knows exactly how to really beat or, shall I say, play with the algorithm for maximum visibility. So as these developments occur, we try to keep our clients on top of them. But again, this is perpetually changing in the world of Instagram. Now, I do want to give you a little bit of inspiration as far as visuals go, right? Of things I really like, right? And that you can draw inspiration from. It just so happens these are brands from the beauty world because, again, these generally do a great job with a really curated, elegant feed. So what I like about the Benefit Canada profile, again, that's an example of personalized content for the Canadian market, right? So they've customized all of that for their audience in Canada. So that's what I like there. They're also leveraging their highlights, right, which you'll see in the middle here, as well as IGTV, which, by the way, is Instagram. Think about like a YouTube style platform where you can post longer videos. You really do want to be leveraging that as well. Instagram, we believe, is going to reward profiles that use IGTV more than those profiles that do not. So you want to be using IGTV, you want to be using your stories. Go to skincare. They've got fabulous little icons in their highlight reel, right, where you see behind the scenes, skin tips, press, and it's almost like a mini website of sorts based on the highlights from their stories reel. And then you can also see they have a very visually consistent feed, right? Their brand color is this lovely peach color here. And so they really use it consistently, which is amazing. The third one I love is Sugar Bear Hair, which is a brand that you may be familiar with. They use influencers quite extensively. They're a gummy vitamin for hair. I couldn't tell you if they work or not. I can just tell you they do a pretty decent job with their social media. And what you see here is this really nice visual consistency, and it almost looks like a barber's sign with these diagonal lines, right? They do turquoise, they do pink, they do gray, they do turquoise, they do pink. And you'll see they also are doing a great job with posting results in their stories as well. They have a 6-month product and a 3-month product, so they showcase all of that. Again, we don't want your profile's photo feed to look like a yard sale, right? We want it to be nice and visually consistent. Now, in your stories, you can be a little more gritty. You can be a little less perfect, right? People expect that. It's live, it's happening. They don't expect perfection. And it's mostly for people who already know your brand. But on your feed, that's how most likely new people will come across you and determine if they want to follow you or not, right? So ultimately, you really want to make sure we are nice and polished. Everything is nice and visually clean on your stories, or I'm sorry, rather on your photo feed, and your stories can be a little bit less perfect, a little more gritty. So just a few profiles I love that I would encourage you to follow for some visual inspiration. Fabulous. Okay, so Facebook, I just want to talk about it really quickly. A lot of these same principles apply to Facebook, right? Every 20 minutes on Facebook, there are a million links, 4.86 million photos, and 763,888 status updates as a minimum, right? And it's probably more than that since I prepared this a little while back. So again, we know that with Instagram, it's owned by Facebook, so there's similarities. But here's what's happening on Facebook right now. Engagement is really on the decline, and we've seen that in numerous studies. So, though as a minimum, you want to post 2 to 4 times weekly, the top brands in the world right now we see are posting 5 times or more weekly to Instagram, and quality really counts here. If you can leverage video for Instagram, and I'm sorry, for Facebook, I'm a really big fan of creating unique Facebook content and unique Instagram content, not just cross posting. Because if you're only doing cross posting, someone has no reason to follow and engage with you on both, right? So it's really worth your while to take a little extra time and create custom content for Facebook and custom content for Instagram. Again, 777 million posts studied. We found those that got the most engagement are with video. And by the way, the most engaged posts right now are actually getting the love and like kind of the laughing haha reaction, right? So anything you can do that's going to get people laughing or that they're really going to feel passionately about and love as opposed to just like, that can really be to your benefit. So you might want to consider that. And again, this particular data set didn't include likes. Now, as far as the top 500 posts on on Facebook in 2018, 81% of them were videos, 18% were images, and only 9.2 were likes. So you really want to be leveraging video on Instagram, as I mentioned. Great. So what I also just wanted to wrap up with, oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. There we go. Are some really helpful tools to use in your social media marketing efforts. Later.com has a really great blog on tactical how-to, and they also have a great blog on best practices. Buffer is a great one for best practices as well. Later is great as a tool, and they have a free version as well as a paid one to pre-schedule your posts and get some analytics. By the way, Iconosquare is another great resource for analytics for Instagram. Mashable is a really good blog, which is all about tech trends and what's happening. So it's really great to follow that as well. Social Blade and 4Card. Those are 2 profile tools we want to use when we're vetting influencers to make sure they actually have authentic engagement. So I would encourage you to check those out as well. There are many, many more great tools out there. These just happen to be the ones that we are especially fond of internally at Branding MD. So hope that's helpful for you. I hope you found lots of value in this webinar. As always, any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I am here for you. And remember, our last webinar of this series is going to be on Monday, and it's all about brilliant marketing mistakes even brilliant practices make, right? So we really want to help you avoid those pitfalls, and we're going to be talking all about that on Monday. So be sure to join us at the same time, same place. Again, my name is Adam Haroon from Branding MD. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll speak again real soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care for now.